All right, today we're going to go through DocuSign, connect it to Command, open up an opportunity where all of our required documents for compliance will be shown to us, and then also how to get those required documents in DocuSign, fill them out. And in today's example, we're going to use a buyer agency agreement as example. However, all of the sending out of documents, whether it is listing, buyer, or referral, the editing, the signatures in DocuSign all work the same. So we're using buyer agency, but this is exactly how you would fill out any other contract. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go into Command now. And what we're going to do, just to make sure we're connected in DocuSign, whenever you onboard with your Market Center, 9 times out of 10, they will create your DocuSign account for you and send you the login. If you're in any of my Market Centers, that's how it works. So you should already have your logins for DocuSign, and they may already be connected as well to your account. But just to be sure, we'll go on to our settings. So if you select your name here at the top right beside your profile photo, you'll get a drop-down menu. And in that drop-down menu, we will select settings. And then in settings, this is where we connect all of our apps. So today we are talking about DocuSign, and you see that's the first one that pops up for me. If you scroll down, you may not see DocuSign or these exact integrations in the same order as I do, but you'll just want to scroll down and find where you do see DocuSign. And if you don't see connected, it's going to give you the option to connect it here, and you can connect your account. Again, you should already have an account if you're with any of my Market Centers, because we do send you your DocuSign login the same time we send you your Command login. And this is where you would come to connect it. And then after it's connected, I'm just going to go back into the home screen. It is a DocuSign account, and I'll just stop sharing my screen just to make this point. It is a DocuSign account that you have. However, you always want to go through Command and Opportunities, which is what we're about to do now, instead of going straight to DocuSign, because what's going to happen when we put our contacts information in Command and start it through an opportunity, all of that information is going to sync. And so we're not going to have to create anything in DocuSign, and all of our documents will be able to be easily accessible and sent out. So we're just going to go through the opportunities, not DocuSign directly. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to start out in the home screen of Command, and we're going to go into opportunities over here on the left-hand side. And in here, this is where if you have any opportunities, you'll be able to see the different stages. However, if you're using Cultivate or Appointment, those are probably just agency agreements or working with real estate agents. And then what you can do is move them on into active, under contract, and eventually closed. For today's purpose, I'm not going to talk too much about this because we're just going to pretend that I am an agent sending out a buyer agency, and we need to get it out right now. So let's just say I don't even have my contact in Command today. So that's what we're going to assume. So we're going to click up here and go to Create Opportunity. We're going to select the opportunity type here. And if you are on a team, you'll have that option here as well. Opportunity type. You're either going to do listing, buyer, landlord, or tenant. And depending on your Market Center, your options for opportunity type, and also in a couple steps further, you'll see the checklist type. So a couple of these things may look a little different, but you should see at least listing or buyer. So we will see or select buyer here. And client, I am just going to enter in myself as an example. If you know your client's information, then you can add them here. If you already have their information in Command, you'll see that that will populate here. So let's just say I'm going to use this one, and I already have an email. If you don't have that contact already added, you can just add them now. So opportunity name, a lot of people like to keep the name as the client's name. If you know the address, sometimes you don't know the address. You only know the client's name in the beginning of the transaction until you're actually under contract on a home. If it's a listing, maybe you do put the address. This is up to you what you would like to name it. And again, this is some information that you may or may not know as you create this. You may know it later in the transaction, so you can edit all of this information. So estimated close date and time frame. You may know this, you may not. Again, it depends on when exactly you're creating this opportunity and what exactly the transaction is. One thing is required though, and that is the commission rate. So I'm going to type in 2.4%. We know that this varies. We know it could be 1%, 2%, 3%, etc. So I'm just putting this in for an example right now. Whether you know it or not, you can change this later. And again, those phases and stages that I mentioned to you right before we did this, you can select those here. We're going to go ahead and create the opportunity now. And now the opportunity is created. One thing that I'll touch on just before we go into the next part is this is a really good opportunity if you are good at tracking and keeping up with your dates, because what you can do when the transaction closes is generate a transaction summary, and it will be a one-page PDF that you can keep for your records. So it's super helpful if you know the parties or the vendors that were involved in the transaction, or maybe you have relationships with vendors and you would like to track how much business you're sending. You can add all of your vendors as well as your contract date, your home inspection date, your appraisal, escrow, closed, and then of course your commission information as well. So a lot of good information if you take the opportunity there for tracking and record keeping purposes. For DocuSign and getting into documents, once you're in the opportunity, we're going to select the second tab, which is documents here. And before we click start a transaction, what we need to do is pick our checklist type. So over here on the left-hand side, you'll see pick checklist type. And we're going to go into one of these checklist types. Again, this is, I know, different for each market center. So if you're in my market center, you should see this. If you're in another market center and I'm your tech coach, I know that you do not see all of these options. You may just see buyer residential or buyer referral. I do see multiple options. So let's just say it's a resale for me. And now you will see there's three different stages that happen here on the third, or three different stages here on the left-hand side. The third is closed, second is under contract. Again, specific to market centers, you'll see a little bit different documents here of what's required. Some are office specific, some are contract specific, obviously. Some are going to be conditional. If it applies to the contract, then it will be required. If it's a VA transaction, obviously there's different disclosures you need signed that you otherwise would not. So if it's conditional, then that is just dependent on the contract itself. But you will always be able to see what exactly is required for compliance, so you know you will not be missing anything. So from in here, what we will do is click on start a transaction. So right here, we're going to click on start a transaction at the top right. And this is what it's doing now, is creating in DocuSign a room. And so I did it and it automatically took me to the transaction. Sometimes it does that. I'm just going to go back here just in case it did not for you. I started the transaction. And then if you did not automatically get routed to DocuSign, you would click on go to transaction and then it would take you to DocuSign. So from in here, you see I just created the opportunity. Also, again, not every office is the same. You can see a lot of the documents automatically pulled into the DocuSign room for me, so I don't have to go and find them. However, it doesn't work that way for everyone, so I'm just going to assume that we don't have any documents in here, and we're going to start from 0 here. So I'm just going to delete these out of the room. And as we wait, so from now, let's just say this is what you see. Let's say it's completely empty. What you will do is click this add button here. And as long as you have connected your DocuSign correctly with your association of realtors, it pulls from your national association. So it should pull all of your office documents, your MLS documents, as well as the North Carolina association or whatever association you are in. So we're going to click on add here and go into DocuSign forms. And today, for the example, let's just say I need to find the buyer agency and the working with real estate agents disclosure. So again, office specific here, you may see some different things on the left-hand side. What you should always see is your North Carolina association or whatever association you are a part of, as well as your MLS and your office specific documents. So to find anything associated with the contract, I'm going to go into North Carolina association, which is mine. And I'm just going to type in buyer because I know exclusive buyer agency will pop up here. And I'm going to select that one. And then let's just say we also want the working with real estate agents disclosure. So I'm going to type that in and select that one. And so now we have two selected, the agency agreement for buyers, as well as the working with real estate agents disclosure. Once we have those selected, we will add selected, and then those will be added to the room. If you did see documents automatically populate, this is a step you don't have to do. However, I just deleted all of mine just in case you did start with nothing there in your room. So from in here, you can't really edit or send them out. What you need to do from here, once you have everything signed and filled out, this is a good way to see everything that's signed and executed. However, what we need to do from here is create an envelope to actually edit the document and send it out for signatures. So when we're in the room and we see the documents, we need to select which ones we want to send out. So let's say you're not ready to send out the exclusive buyer agency, but you are ready to send out the working with real estate agents. Maybe you've just had that initial conversation. You could just select the one, or if you have multiple documents in here, I'm going to do this as well. I'm going to select both. So if you want to send out multiple documents at once for signatures, you can. So once you've selected the documents you want to send, you'll see that these icons popped up. And you've got a few different options here, but this pencil icon here, or the pen, is create envelope. And that is what we are going to select. And from in here, this is going to be the recipients. So this is who we're actually going to send it out to. So let's say I know that I'm the buyer's agent. So there's always going to be a buyer's agent. And then let's say for this example, there's only one buyer. We know that there may be two buyers, or if it was a listing, there may be one or two sellers as well. For example, today I'm just going to do one buyer, and then I'm going to press continue. And as we wait here, what it's going to do is create the document, and we're going to get our signing order and check on our emails, make sure all of our emails are correct. So you'll see here, add recipients. So this, again, is a reason we go through command and opportunities first, because if we have that contact in command, it automatically will associate that email. So you don't have to add their email if you've already got it in there. So just make sure that this is accurate when you're sending it out. Obviously, you see my information copied because I'm just using this as an example. However, over here, you'll see numbers in this little box, and that is the signing order. So for example, if I sent this out right now where the buyer agent, am selected as 1 and the buyer, also myself, is selected as 2, I would have to sign this first before my buyer would be able to sign it and receive the documents. So depending on the situation, some agents like to do that. For this example, I'm just going to show you how to edit the 2 into a 1. So if you want everyone to receive the documents at the exact same time, this is what you can do. You can just set everyone to 1. And again, sometimes there are issues if you don't realize that the numbers are different and you don't get the documents, or your client doesn't. It may be that the signing order was selected so that someone else has to sign first before they can. So that's just something to keep an eye on there. And then from in here, you can change the message that the email will be sent with. So if you would like to change what the subject is, if you would like to change it to, let's just say, here's that working with real estate agents document we spoke about. If that's what you would like to say, whatever you want to say on the subject, you can. And if you would like to enter a message with that, you can as well. So I'm going to leave that blank and just select next here. And from in here, this is where you can see we are actually editing and can fill out the document. So we're not going to go through and select everything on this buyer agency agreement. However, I am going to show you how to edit it and a couple other best practices here. So you always want to make sure this information is correct here. And if you have multiple buyers, you would see multiple names. And so just make sure all information is always correct. And you will see some that auto-populates like your firm. Type of property. When you are selecting these little circle check boxes, if you just select it once, it kind of gives you some options in editing here. So what you need to do to actually check it is select it again. So you need to check it twice. You hit the button twice on your mouse, and that will actually check it. And then obviously the text, you would just want to do the same thing. You can just double click on your mouse, and then you could type in your location or whatever the field is requiring you to fill out. So as we scroll down the checkbox again, let's just check that one as example. Let's just say I need to check this one. The initials here, these should be automatically assigned to the correct roles. And if for any reason, let's say you have part of the contract where you need to strike through and add an initial, what you can do over here on the left-hand side is just drag these initials over, or any of these fields over. If you needed a signature or a date signed or anything else added, you can just drag it here. However, all of the roles should automatically be assigned. So if I select this one here where the buyer is supposed to initial, if I look over to the right-hand side, the recipient here is the buyer. And then if I were to select individual agent, I am also the agent, so I'm named the same. However, you do see that the buyer agent is also automatically assigned to this initial. And if I just scroll down, all of the same editing applies, just double clicking on all of these boxes and editing what you need to put into the contract. Obviously, each contract may be a little bit different for you, so we're not going through the exact contract itself. And then at the very bottom here, you'll see individual signatures and date signs. Again, all of these are all automatically assigned to the correct roles. So after I have made sure everything is correct, I've entered everything, what we would want to do next is get signatures. And how we do that is we go to the bottom right-hand side where we press send, and I'm going to press on send here. And as it loads, the very next step is going to be signing it yourself. So it has now been sent out. If you're the agent, I'm going to show you how to just sign this yourself from here, because it is a little bit easier to just sign it since you've just sent it out and you know that you need to sign it. What we can do now is select this envelope that we created, and you will see the status. So buyer agent and buyer one needs to sign. If you needed to come in here and resend it for any reason, you can, or make corrections. So if I select here more, and I go to, well, I realize I put a different email in here that I'm logged in for myself, so that's okay. But in here, you could always resend it out. And then if we go over to the Documents tab again, we can see that they live here. But again, I just want to show you that the Documents tab and the Envelope tab are different. So again, if I came here and I wanted to resend it, I don't have that ability. So when you're sending it out for signatures after you've sent it once, this is where that envelope will live. All right, so now I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second. So the very next part of compliance is going to be submitting the commission request. And how we do that is through the opportunities in command. So I'm going to share my screen and go back into the opportunities of command. The only time you need to submit your commission request is when you're submitting it for review for compliance to get paid, meaning you have all of the documents done and you're submitting this submission request for compliance, for review. So if you don't have any documents at all in your opportunity, you don't necessarily have to submit a commission request right away. This is when you've got some documents that need to be reviewed. So let me share my screen back to command here. So we default back into DocuSign. So I'm going to go back into command. And let's say you need to go back and find the opportunity. I will start back at my home screen and we will go back into opportunities here. And I'm going to select all opportunities. And I have some examples here. I'm not sure which one I just did, so I'm just going to select on this one. So we know our Documents tab is here. Our Offers and Commissions tab is where we're going to submit our commission request. So from the Documents tab, we're going to go into Offers and Commissions. And so you can see here, I already have one, so just don't mind this one. What we're going to do is press Add New Offer. And you can change the name of the offer if you would like. Sometimes, depending on where you are in compliance, you may already be close to under contract, or you feel like signatures might happen soon. You might call it the address of the home, or you might just say offer 1 or offer 2. Whatever you want to name it is completely up to you. And when we create that offer, we're going to come in here and edit a few things. So we're going to need the address here. So you're going to need to input the address for the listing. I don't have one in mind personally, but I know if I type Main Street, something will pop up. So I'm just using this as an example. And let me find a better one here. Let's see. There we go. Needed at least a home number in there. So the offer date obviously is going to be the day that you wrote the offer. And then the close date would be the date that you've written into the offer. Obviously, this may change and that is okay, but that is what is on the contract. So whatever the contract says and whenever you sent the contract are the dates that you will enter here. And then we go next into parties. This is where we're going to enter the buyer, the seller, as well as the associate's name for each of those sides. So if we have a buyer agent and a listing agent, we'll enter those names. For the sake of this, I'm just entering my information over and over for everybody. Obviously, you would want to put the correct clients and also the agent's information here. And then we're going to go into terms next. From in here, this is where we're going to see the sales price, which is what is going to calculate our commission off of. So if we know the cash amount, let's say it is a cash deal, and we know that it's a $500,000 cash deal, you'll see that the sales price is $500,000 here. If we know that it's going to be $250,000 in cash, and let's say $250,000 in finance, or let's say you don't know right now what exactly is going to be financed, you can change this information. So if you just put the listing price or the purchase price and the full amount of either, you will see that the sales price will be correct. Earnest money information you can put here as well, any option fees, any termination options, any seller costs associated as well. You can enter all of this information. And then agent analysis is just going to ask pros and cons that and summary as well that you can have as notes with the opportunity. So if you don't put anything in here at all, it will still go through if I press save, but this is an opportunity for you to come in here and make some notes. So if I press save, it's not going to submit it quite yet. So what you will see is if I go here, what I would want to do is here, let me delete this one. I've already submitted one here, but what you would see is you would see submit request. And if you have already submitted it, like this one here, so you would see a different option if you have not submitted it. And then once you submit, this is one that I did already. So you can see that it's open. So this is now telling me that it's been reviewed and it's open. I've reviewed it or my compliance has been reviewed. And if there's any errors or if there's anything in compliance that comes back, you will get notified in your little notification bell here as well. And again, this is where you're submitting it to your MCA or your compliance department at your market center. So at this point, they are going to receive it and they're going to check it out and see if there's any information that needs to be corrected or if there's any documents missing. And if there are, then you will be notified. So again, if we go into documents and we go into under contract, what you can also do, for example, I'll just make a note of this because this is a common question. If we go into close, you'll see that there are some documents, excuse me, you'll see that there are some documents that are probably not going to be in DocuSign. For example, the CD, alter, or HUD, you're probably going to get that from the attorney. So the way that you're going to upload that is if we go here to attach files from DocuSign, we can change that to my computer manual. And so now from in here, if you have a PDF or the attorney has sent you a physical copy and you've scanned it to your email, however you have the file on your email, you can just upload that here. And the same thing with your commission checks as well. So there are some times where the documents won't come from DocuSign and you do need to attach them manually. And again, the ALTA and commission checks are a good example of that. So that is how you can go and upload from your computer. All right. Well, that is, excuse me, DocuSign 101 and how to do a buyer agency. Again, all of the documents work the same way as finding them and editing them. So this works for all documents, but that was buyer agency.